Hey garden and chili pepper lovers, this is episode 1 of our series, Become an Expert Chili Pepper Grower. Out of all the food we grow, we are most passionate about growing chili plants. We love all the different colors, shapes, sizes, flavors, and most varieties can be pretty tricky to grow. So I want to mention this is what works for us. Many growers out there do it differently. Different climates have different growing requirements. We are growing in a hot deserty climate, inland SoCal, and if you want to share what works for you, we'd love to hear it. So we hope you get some positive information from this series. Feel free to reach out with any questions. We're here to help. All right, let's get started.
All right, the first thing that we're going to go over are the seed starting basics. Then we're going to go into transplanting, and then the next episode will cover watering. The episode after that will be fertilizing, and then pest management, and so on. Also, this is probably going to be the longest video out of the series, and they're all going to be combined into one live resource on our website. That way, if we miss anything or update anything, you could always go there and use it as a resource anytime. Okay, so you probably have an idea of what you'd like to grow, whether it's sweet peppers, bells, hot peppers, or super hots. One thing to keep in mind is each variety has its own germination time frame. So for instance, jalapeno will typically germinate in 7 days. So will a Hatch chili or an Anaheim chili. The super hots, the capsicum chinense, they can go from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So it's not unusual for them to germinate in 21 days. Next thing to consider is what container size do you want to start them in? And we had a trial going on with the little 4-inch pots versus the little six cell containers. And what we found is the little containers, the little 6-cell containers, work good for if you're going to mass sow seeds for, let's say, a Hatch chili will grow, 30 plants. So it's good for making the most out of your germination space. But I did experience, trialing the two right next to each other, that the seedlings perform better in the 4-inch containers, and that just saves a potting up step in my mind. So going forward, we're going to just stick with the 4-inch containers and skip the small cells for our chili starts. And since we're growing year-round, we'll periodically show you some timestamps. For instance, the seed sown on this Virgin Island Scotch bonnet was sown on 3/25, and you can see germination was 4/2, so 9 days for that variety. And today is May 31st, so in a moment you're going to see what size it is today. A very important aspect of starting your chilies from seed is the seed starting mix. I did an analysis of Bonnie's chili plant seed starting mix. It seemed every time I saw their plants, the soil in the container was always moist, which is a huge no-no for chili pepper seedlings. Got plenty of oxygen in there. So I'm going to try to recreate this. Here it is dry and it's very fluffy. So it's definitely, I think, some type of sphagnum moss. I'm loving our new soil mix, but I'm going to give this a try. And we're loving it. We've added the sphagnum moss to our new soil mixture. In my opinion, this is the best seed starting mix that we've used in all the years we've been growing, and we're using it for just about everything. The mixture consists of Edna's Best. We've been growing with Edna's Best for years. It's got all of the beneficial microbes in it. We added a bunch of vermiculite, a bunch of cocoa coir. We added some 555 crown jewels and the sphagnum moss. The chili peppers are growing so excellent in it. It appears introducing the moss into the soil is giving the roots the oxygen that they need. More on that in the next episode when we cover watering. All right, so now to actually sow the seeds, and unless you're in another part of the world or you're growing year-round like us and you have a greenhouse, you've probably are past this point and you're at the transplant point, but you'll have all this information handy where next season you can start your own chili pepper plants from seed. Maybe you've seen some beautiful plants at a local nursery. We will cover that next. All right, You saw our soil mixture. We basically pre-moisten it, lightly compact it into the container, place the seed in a 1/4 to an 1/8 inch divot, cover it lightly with a seed starting mix, make sure that there are no chunks in it that could deter the sprout from popping up. Use a hand pump sprayer to spray the soil that's covering the seed, and then cover it with a plastic bag for a little mini greenhouse effect. You most likely won't need to even re-moisten the soil because the plastic bag is going to act as its little greenhouse and keep the soil moist. We have ours on a heat mat at about 85 degrees under a Spider Farmer grow light, and at about day 6, 7, then we just come in and check and you'll see some green right through the plastic, depending on the variety you're growing. So jalapenos, yep, day 7, you're gonna see something. It's always my favorite part. Once germination has occurred, then I remove the plastic, and that's why I also think it's better to have just the 4-inch pot, so an individual little greenhouse. At this point, I move them into our greenhouse. You could keep them under the grow lamp depending on the area of country you're living in. It could be maybe it's too cold to move them into a greenhouse or outside. But one thing to consider, and we'll do a more in-depth video down the road, is if you're going to grow under a grow lamp, make sure you have adequate lighting. You're going to want to get reflective material and everything, because the LED grow lights are not sufficient on their own. They definitely need some reflective material. I have grown with the fluorescent bulbs, the tea lights, and they have been adequate. But ultimately, chili peppers love the sun, and you can do artificial light, but the actual sun is the best, and they like the heat also. So if temperatures are too low, they're going to really struggle, and if the weather is too cloudy, they'll grow very slow. So there's some wacky things that can occur. This particular seedling has 3 seeds stuck to it, and 2 of them just fell right off, but this other one is stuck on the leaves. So we'll cover that in another video of issues that can occur growing chili peppers. So from here, the most important thing in the seedling's life is the watering, consistent watering. They hate to stay soggy. They need to not dry out. So that's going to be the topic we're going to cover in episode 2. Now we'll go on to transplanting. So I haven't got an opportunity to watch too much of other growers' content, but I have got to see a little bit. And this is where our different climate plays into what we're able to do differently. For instance, this little baby seedling is probably only 5 weeks old, and we're gonna move it into its permanent growing location. You can see here it's got some yellowing of the leaves. It needs some nutrients. We're gonna get it a compost tea water. We're gonna get it some AgroThrive, and we're gonna get it transplanted into a 7-gallon fabric pot, just like this one, this Fiji bongo, was transplanted at a very young seedling age. I tried skipping all these potting up steps for the first time last year because I was traveling, and I got great results. So where we've landed today is we will be skipping the tiny little 6-cell containers. We'll be starting we'll sow our seeds directly in the 4-inch pots. And then from there, we're going to move them directly into their 7-gallon grow bags or directly outside. We were using, and actually we still use, the 5-gallon containers. A professional grower, Jacob Deathridge, grows in these 7-gallon fabric pots, and they are fantastic. It's what I prefer to use now in the greenhouse and outside. So you can see here the root growth of the tiny little seedling that was in that little 6-pack container. And it's very healthy, it's compact, so it's definitely time to get it in a larger container. And once you get them transplanted, after a few days and they establish, you really start seeing them take off with some really fast growth. So all of these little seedlings that we're gonna whisk by were transplanted into these large containers when they were just maybe 5 weeks old. You know, they just barely had their true leaves growing. All right, so now we're going to transplant a baby seedling into this container in the greenhouse, and then we'll head over and do the same for an outdoor seedling. And the process is identical except for one important point. All right, so the soil that we're using in this container is recycled from a previous year. It was bought in bulk from Paradise Nursery in Riverside, and it's an excellent soil mixed with compost. It's organic, it's got great water retention, and we're using this soil grabber just in case there's some grubs in there because the fig beetle gets into our containers. We're mixing some Crown Jewels 555. You could see how beautiful the root growth is. Very healthy plant. Seeds were sown 420, germination 5.2, and we're at 531. So very healthy, beautiful plant. So I'm going to rush past this next transplant. There's really only one difference, and that is it's getting placed outside. So we're still giving it the 555. We're still checking for grubs. We are going to look under the leaves and make sure there's no aphid eggs or aphids. Then we're going to watch the sun and make sure that it's under the 40% shade cloth, and if it is not, we're going to get it covered because hardening off is a very important part of transplanting your chili pepper babies. All right, so this went on way too long, but there was a lot to cover. And right now I'm tracking an ant because we have ants farming aphids, and if we have an ant issue in this container, I'm going to really have to keep an eye on this plant because they will be bringing in aphids, and it's going to be a high maintenance plant. No problem, we'll get some borax to take care of the ants. All right, so make sure to subscribe and follow. The next episode will be about watering, and watering is extremely important for chili pepper plants. Hope you guys enjoy your week and enjoy your garden.